Yields back. The gentleman from Connecticut, Mr. Heim, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Chairman Powell, thanks for being with us today. I have a question, but I want to start by acknowledging, not celebrating, but acknowledging what has been a really remarkable soft landing in our economy. And I'm not celebrating because the American people, consumers, are still feeling the effects of high prices. Wages haven't caught up with prices in some instances. But I think that it would be fair to say that observers would never have predicted the conduct of this economy. You yourself said it in the final press conference of 2023 when you said a very high proportion of forecasters predicted very weak growth or a recession. Not only did that not happen, we actually had a very strong year. So I want to acknowledge that and acknowledge your commitment to independent monetary policy. And because I'm still burdened with this idea that truth and facts matter, I want to point out, especially having listened to my good friend Mr. Sessions talk about the energy market, truth and facts matter. We are producing more oil and natural gas today than any other country on the planet. We are the world's #1 energy producer. I could spend my entire 5 minutes sort of pointing out facts. The fact I want to point out here, and this comes right out of the report, is that the premise that inflation is Joe Biden's fault, is fiscal policy's fault, first is faulty because half the fiscal stimulus that occurred in the face of the pandemic happened under the previous president, Donald Trump, and it has faded, and this report makes the case. Core, and I quote from it, core goods prices have been declining as supply bottlenecks ease and import price inflation falls. So, Mr. Chairman, I don't want you to comment on that because it gets a little bit political, but I do think it's important that we keep some foot on the plane of facts. I do want to ask you a question, though, Mr. Chairman, because I always worry about risks that we see and risks that we don't see. And I want to use the remainder of my time to talk about a risk you're very conscious of, which is the overhang in the commercial real estate market. As you know, the Financial Stability Oversight Council identified commercial real estate as perhaps the most salient risk to the financial system, $6 trillion roughly in loans, half of that on bank balance sheets. In a 60 Minutes interview a few weeks ago, you characterized distress in the commercial real estate market as sizable but manageable. Do you still feel like that risk is manageable? Do you feel like you've got the visibility and the transparency and the tools to address it? It makes me nervous because this has echoes of 2008, 2009, when vacancy rates were declined relatively rapidly. We're not seeing that right now. So how do you feel? Does that risk continue to be manageable, and do you have the tools to manage it?
I would say yes to that. I think it is manageable, and we've been working hard to management for some time now, really. And what it really is it's a lot of downtown real estate where there's too much office supply because of work from home, and also the kind of downtown retail that is no longer as profitable, and things like that are really at the heart of it. So what we've done is we've looked at banks that have significant concentrations, and we've been in touch with them to make sure that they have a plan to deal with that. There will be losses by some banks. It isn't really the big banks, it's really medium and small-sized banks that have these higher concentrations. It's going to be with us as a problem we'll be working through, I think, for several years. And the idea is you've got to have enough capital, enough liquidity, and a plan to take the losses that you're probably going to take. And so that's what we're doing. We're very active in this space with small, medium-sized.
So let me ask you about that. Sorry to interrupt, but let me ask you about that. Silicon Valley Bank, wild irresponsibility inside the bank, egregious irresponsibility on the part of corporate treasurers who put so much on deposit. The Fed also had some self-examination to do because the examiners and the supervisors of the bank, quite frankly, were not doing what they should have been. So we might be forgiven for being a bit skeptical of claims of being on this. What has changed in the context of Silicon Valley Bank that gives you the confidence that the supervisors and the examiners will be on top of this?
I see it with my own eyes, but frankly, there's a risk that we would overreact to something as significant as that. It's not like we wouldn't have reacted very, very strongly to what happened with Silicon Valley Bank, and we have. So I know that our supervisors are out there, and we're hearing back from media reports that we have been engaged with medium and small-sized banks principally on this. So I am confident that we're doing the right things there, and I do believe it's a manageable problem. If that changes, then I'll say so.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yield back.